I'm sorry. So, Dennis, is there anybody, that's present with you that's over 18 years of age?
No, I am by myself.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's see, the provisions of the subdivision shall not serve as a means for any member of a legislative body to participate in meetings of the legislative body solely by teleconference from a remote location for a period of more than 3 consecutive months or 20% of the regular meetings for the local agency within a calendar year, or more than 2 meetings if the legislative body regularly meets fewer than 10 times per calendar year. The member requests the legislative body to allow them to participate in the meeting remotely due to emergency circumstances, and the legislative body takes action to approve the request. So, Director Mayo has requested to meet remotely for medical reasons. Is there any other action that we need to take for that?
Yeah, so you guys need to approve.
You're muted, Pat.
So we have a motion. We have a motion from Director Couch. Can I have a second? Okay, you want to turn your mic on?
Claire, I'll second.
Yes, and we have a second from Director Bender. Could you call the roll, please, Joey?
Director Bender,
Yes.
Director Beitman,
Yes.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
and President Orsini.
Yes. Okay, so we took care of that business. So now we'll do the roll call, please.
Director Bender,
Here.
Director Beitman, Director Couch,
Here.
Director Mayo,
Here.
and President Orsini.
Here. Thank you. So could we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I'm sorry, I didn't check with you before. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Additions or changes to the agenda. Items may be added to the agenda in accordance with section 54954.2 subsection B2 of the government code, Brown Act. Upon determination by 2/3 of the vote of the members of the legislative body present at the time of the meeting, or if less than 2/3 of the members are present, a unanimous vote of those members present. That there need to take immediate action, and that the need for the action came to the attention of the McKinleyville Community Services District after the agenda was posted. Are there any additions to the agenda?
We do not.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
I'll move to approve.
We'll give that one to Director Bender. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
And Director Beitman seconded. Could you call the roll, please, Joey?
Director Bender,
Yes.
Director Beitman,
Yes.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
and President Orsini.
Yes. Closed session discussions. There are no closed sessions scheduled for this meeting. Public hearings. There are no public hearings scheduled for this meeting. Public comment and written communications. Any person may address the board at this time upon any subject not identified on the agenda, but within the jurisdiction of McKinleyville Community Services District. However, any matter that requires action will be referred to staff for report of action at a subsequent committee or board meeting. As to matters on the agenda, an opportunity will be given to address the board when the matter is considered. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Letters should be used for complex issues. At this time, I'll take any public comment. No public comment. Is there anybody online? And there's nobody online, so no public comment. So the consent calendar. The consent calendar items are expected to be routine and non-controversial, to be acted upon by the Board of Directors at one time without discussion. If any board member, staff member, or interested person requests that an item be removed from the consent calendar, it shall be removed so that it may be acted upon separately. So at this time, by the request of staff, we're going to pull item D1 and D10. And at this point in time, any discussion or comments on the rest of the consent calendar?
Yeah, I'd like to pull item D4 solely for the purpose of abstention.
Okay. And we're going to pull D4. Okay, so any motions? Can I entertain? I'll entertain a motion for acceptance of the rest of the consent calendar.
I so move.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. Very good. So we'll be acting upon items D2, D3, D5, D6, D7, D8, D9, and D11. Could you call the roll, please?
Director Bender,
Yes.
Director Beitman,
Yes.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
yes,
and President Orsini.
Yes. Okay, so let's we'll go ahead and go back to item D1. And that's consider approval of the minutes of the Board of Directors meeting for the June 7th and the June 12th, 2023 meetings. And Joey,
Yes, so if I could draw your attention to the June 7th minutes, item E7 under motion summary, it is written, motion did not pass. That is incorrect. That motion did pass unanimously.
so that's on page,
Page
that's
12.
on page 12. Did everybody find that okay?
Yeah.
So basically, we're going to be striking did not pass and put motion did pass. And that's it?
That is all.
Okay. And now board pleasure, do we want to handle these individually, or do we want to go ahead and group them all together and do so you're requesting to pull D4 and postpone that.
Abstention, and I assume.
Oh, abstention, not extension. Okay, I get it now. All right. So let's go ahead and we'll do D1 then. So can I get a motion to accept item D1?
I'll move that we accept item D1 on
Okay,
consent.
thank you. In a second.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Joey, could you please call roll?
Director Bender,
Yes.
Director Beitman,
This is accept as.
Yeah, accept as amended.
Yes.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
yes,
and President Orsini.
Yes. Okay, now we'll move along to item D4. And is there any comment or questions on D4 from the board? No? Okay, I'll entertain a motion on D4.
I'll move we pass D4.
Okay, and a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Could you call roll, please, Joey?
Director Bender,
Abstain.
Director Beitman,
Yes.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
yes,
and President Orsini.
Yes, thank you. And now we'll move along to item D10. And we pulled D10 because there was a modification necessary to the resolution 2023-16. And Joey, will you be handling this?
I can handle it.
Okay. General Manager Kaspari will handle this. So take it away.
Okay, so item D10, like President Orsini mentioned, you have a new handout for the resolution there.
We got a new form from Cal OES for this resolution, and we wanted to match that form exactly. So that's why we changed the resolution. So this is the resolution 2023-16 is intended to designate the GM as a authorized agent of MCSD. This resolution does not supersede MCSD's expenditure control policy or in any way modify the general manager's discretionary spending limits. You also note that in the resolution, we added the finance director and the board president as authorized agents for signing documents for these grants. So staff recommends that the board review the information provided and approve resolution 2023-16, designating the general manager, the finance director, and the board president as authorized agents for the purpose of the hazard mitigation program and the pre-disaster mitigation program.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? From the board? From the public? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move we approve D10
D10 as modified.
as modified.
Okay, thank you. Second,
I'll second.
And President Orsini, you may want to abstain from this vote since you are named as one of the authorized agents.
okay, yeah, but I don't have any financial gain by.
Okay.
So could I remind the board members to speak into the microphone, please, when they're talking? Thank you. So we have a motion. Did we get a second on that, Joey?
Yes.
Okay, so could you call the roll, please?
Director Bender,
Yes.
Director Beitman,
Yes.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
yes,
and President Orsini.
Yes. Thank you. So that takes care of the consent calendar. Okay, so moving right along, we'll move to item E1, which is consider adopting a resolution 2023-14, recognizing, honoring, and commending Brad Heyman for 10 years of service. And that's on page 111. And Parks and Rec Director Frisbee, are you going to present this one?
Yes,
Thank you.
with great pleasure. I'm so excited. 10 years for Brad. Yay. Attached for the board's review is resolution 2023-14, recognizing, honoring, and commending Brad Heyman for his 10 years of continuous service. I'm going to read the resolution into the record and recommend that the board adopt it and then take pictures and present an award. Resolution 2023-14, recognizing, honoring, and commending Brad Heyman for serving McKinleyville Community Services District for 10 continuous years. Whereas Brad Heyman, having faithfully served 10 continuous years as an employee of the McKinleyville Community Services District from July 17th, 2013 to July 17th, 2023, and whereas throughout his years of service, Brad has demonstrated commitment and dedication to the maintenance of parks, facilities, and open spaces. And whereas Brad is reliable and resourceful while managing competing priorities with limited resources. And whereas Brad consistently meets the requirements of his job with high quality performance and service to providing the community clean and safe parks and facilities. And whereas Brad is the well-respected supervisor and leader of the park maintenance team, as well as the district's only certified playground safety inspector. And whereas Brad lends his talents and experience to the betterment of the district, he has proven to be a valuable asset to the district and to the community of McKinleyville. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the McKinleyville Community Services District does hereby confer upon Brad Heyman its highest commendation for the dedicated service he has performed for the district and the community, and further marks his historic accomplishment as a McKinleyville Community Services District employee for 10 years.
Thank you. So, any comment from the board?
Well, I'll say 10 years, is a good time, but hopefully 10 more is coming. So thank you very much.
Right on. Thank you, Brad, for all your service. My ladies absolutely love you. And they feel a lot safer meeting across the hall when you and your crew are around, especially you and Cecil. Anyway, yeah, keep doing what you're doing. We very much appreciate you.
Okay, well, Director Brightman can go first and then we'll let Director Mayo in. Thank you for bringing that up, Norman.
This is one of the few really meaningful things I get to do as a member of this board. And that is to commend you, Brad, for all that you've done for 10 years and thank you for it. And I mean it when I say this is a really meaningful thing. And say is thank you. 10 years of service is a lot of service.
Thank you. Director Mayo?
Yeah, hey, Brad, I wish I was there to say something untoward. I won't do it over this, but love you, man. You've been a great employee and a good friend. Thank you for all that you've done.
Very good. So, yeah, Brad, thank you very much. Does it feel like 10 years or does it feel like 20 years? Or does it feel like 5? Feels like 20. So of course, being the general manager and having worked with Brad, I have a little bit different perspective working for Brad. Brad's always been very conscientious, cares very much for his crew and for the condition of our parks and our facilities. And we're lucky enough to poach him from Arcata School District, and he brought just a ton of experience and skills with him when he came, and we're very lucky to have Brad. So thank you very much for your service, and hopefully we get another 10 out of you, buddy. So at this point in time, I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 2023-14.
I'll move that we adopt a resolution 2023-14.
A second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Could you call roll, please,
Actually,
Joey?
before the roll call,
Oh,
Brad, do you want to?
oh, that's right. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Put him on
Thank
the
you.
spot.
Yeah, no, so I was gonna let Brad talk after we approve the resolution, but is there any anybody from the public comment from the public? Thanks. Thanks, Pat.
Hello, I'm Kirsten. I also work in our Parks and Rec department and almost to 10 years myself. So Brad started just a little bit before me. So feel you on the 20 years. Feels like 15. I got you for your 10 years, some grass that doesn't need to be mowed.
Yeah, but do you smoke it?
I'm David Baldosser. I don't work for the Parks Department. But I've worked with Brad for 10 years and it's nice to have a fellow Dodger fan in the office. He, as was mentioned, you give him a call, he's there to provide what you need. And just appreciate having you around, Brad. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Can I say some more things?
Of course. So we'll bring it back to staff.
It's been a pleasure working with Brad. It's been a pleasure and sometimes a misery. The poor guy has to put up with me as his boss. But I appreciate Brad. He cares a lot about what he does. He cares a lot about the facilities and the spaces, and he works really hard to provide like high quality maintenance with very limited resources. And we commiserate about that frequently. And I appreciate Brad as not just as an employee, but like he's a good friend. He listens to me bitching and commiserating, and I'm super happy to have him on my team. Thanks, Brad.
I would
Director
also,
General Manager Kaspari.
I would also like to chime in and thank Brad. I frequently, and I'll mention it in the next item as well, say that, staff is the most important asset the district has. And Brad epitomizes, staff at the district. He really cares about everything. And one of the reasons why people stick around for 10 years is because they care about stuff and they care about the staff, et cetera. And Brad very much does that. And every time Leslie or I tell him, hey, if you just don't have time to mow something, don't mow it. He turns that around and says, no, we can't do that. I need to mow it. And that kind of epitomizes his work ethic and the rest of the crew's work ethic too. So thanks, Brad.
Any other comment, public or staff? Okay, at this time, Joy, could you please call the roll?
Director Bender,
Yes.
Director Beitman,
Yes.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
and President Orsini.
An enthusiastic yes. So at this point in time, could we all conglomerate over here to the, I don't know, where do you want us at, Pat? We'll kind of go, I guess we'll go over here
Bye, Leslie.
and do a photo. If I didn't think that it would be profanity soaked, I'd ask Brad what he thinks about the walls in here, but
I think there's a story we don't know.
you made the motion, didn't you?
I think so.
Was that motion by Director Couch? Huh?
Okay.
It was a motion by Director Bender and
Oh,
a second by
Bender.
Director Couch.
Okay. Okay, so we'll move along to item E2, which is recognition of staff accomplishments for 2022-23 and introduction of new district staff members. This is an information item and it can be found on page 115. And General Manager Kaspari will be presenting this.
Thank you, President Orsini. Over the past year, staff has worked diligently to provide high-quality service to the McKinleyville community. There have been many staff changes over the past year, with some staff moving to different positions and new staff coming on board. This is a time to recognize our staff for their accomplishments and to introduce new staff to the board. So I would ask staff to stand when I say their name. In the Finance and Administrative Department, Joey Blaine has been promoted from Customer Service Specialist to Board Secretary. A smattering of applause. Evie Young has been promoted from Customer Service Representative to Customer Service Specialist.
And the crowd goes wild.
Norman Schwen has been promoted from Office Assistant to Customer Service Representative. The department also welcomes two new hires. Laurel Weston started as a Customer Service Representative on May 15th, 2023, and Benjamin Arroyo started as an accounting technician on June 1st, 2023. In the operations department, we would like to introduce our new utility maintenance employee, Gabriel Andrade. And as I mentioned just previously, as the board is fully aware, staff is by far the most valuable asset of the district. This is a small but distinguished cross-section of the critical people that serve the district and the people of McKinleyville. I cannot stress enough how great a staff you have working for you. So staff recommends that the board review the material provided, take public comment, and recognize district staff on accomplishments and meet the new staff members.
So at this point in time, do we have any comment from the board?
Well, I'll jump in. I want to welcome all the new guys and people who are continuing on. Thanks very much. It's always great to see great to see the staff. I don't get to see them enough because I'm not in the office, but a wonderful staff, and we appreciate all your work.
Ditto.
Any other comment from the board?
Just may your tenures be happy and fruitful.
I want to say something, Greg, if that's all right.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, you know, I think reading the packet and thinking about this, I don't know what it is. We have a culture at MCSD that is really warm and inviting, and yet we demand a great performance, and we get all of that. I wish I could put my finger on the magical connections that make this happen, but we're a very lucky district, and our staff and our new staff are the reason for that. So welcome and thank you.
Very well put. Thank you, Dennis. Anybody else from the board? Director Beitman?
I'll second what Director Mayo has just said, which is in joining an organization or being promoted within an organization, there's a moment to stop and think about what does this really mean? This is a big part of my life. And I'm taking a big step, whether it's just to begin working or to accept the promotion and the increase in responsibility that comes along with that. I just want to say to each and every one of you, thank you.
Thank you. So I just would like to congratulate you all for coming to McKinleyville Community Services District and congratulate you for your advancements. As somebody who started working for McKinleyville Community Services District in 1990, I can tell you that there's plenty of upward mobility at the district. And if you work hard and you're lucky and you're at the right place in the right time, there's no limit to what you can achieve working for McKinleyville Community Services District. And not only that, but you are amongst friends and family when you're working at McKinleyville Community Services District. So it's a great honor to have you as part of our staff, and welcome aboard. Thank you very much. At this point in time, I'll open it up for comment from staff.
I think your finance director.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I prepared some comments. So I wanted to just go through each person. I've only been with the district about 1.5 years, but I've worked in several different entities, and I don't say this lightly. This is the best team I've ever had the opportunity to work on. So I just want the folks that are on my team that are in the room to know that it's really an honor to work with each and every one of you every single day. But I'll start with Joey. So Joey has worked for the district for just a little over 11 years. He started with us as a customer service representative. In that position, he acquired a variety of skills. He handled all of our internal IT functions, and he learned that on the job. He also previously handled accounts payable, so he paid all the district's bills. He's a natural collaborator, and he frequently brings our team together by offering his knowledge and expertise to newer staff members. He's kind, he's empathetic, he's patient, and in general, he's a jack of all trades. If he doesn't know how to do something, he learns how to do it. And I know myself and others appreciate that about him. So we're very lucky to have Joey on our team at the district. Evie, she's right in the back. Evie has worked at the district just over 2 years, and she brings with her a wealth of billing and office administration experience. She worked at Humboldt Sanitation actually for over 20 years before she joined us. So in her role at the district, she's actually going to be a lead in our office. And in that role, she trains other staff members. She also coordinates all of our accounts payable. So she now pays all the bills for the district. I appreciate Evie because she's very lighthearted. She has a dry sense of humor, which balances really well with my tendency to take everything very literally. She's dependable, she's accurate, she's thorough. And if I haven't told you yet, Evie, I don't know what I would do without you. So I really appreciate having you on the team. Norman has been with us just over 9 months, and he came to us. He had a background in mathematics, and he also worked in customer service. He started as the friendly face that greets you at the counter when you walk in the front door. But he's quickly proven that he brings so much more than that. He's learned billing extremely quickly. He's detail-oriented, he's curious, he's ambitious. And one of his best characteristics is his consistently positive attitude. I know that I have not yet discovered all the talents that Norman's going to bring to our team, but I am excited that I will be able to see that. So congratulations, Norman. Laurel is over there. She's our new customer service representative. She joined the district in May, and she previously worked at Humbrew's as an event planner, and she also worked as a manager at Cafe Mocha. Her first week in the office was what we call flood week. That's the week that all the bills are due. And so we get a lot of customers that week. But Laurel really took her first week like a champ. And she jumped in and she learned how to post payments and how to answer the phone. And she is a natural people person. She's warm. She's a warm personality that greets you when you walk in the front door, and she asks you how your day is going. She's honest, she's sincere, and she has a willingness to learn all the things that the district does. So I'm excited to see what Laurel's going to bring to our team. And then finally, Benjamin. Benjamin is our new accounting technician. Benjamin just graduated from Cal Poly Humboldt in May with his degree in accounting. In his role, he assists me with general accounting, doing account reconciliations, preparation for the audit and the budget. Benjamin is naturally inquisitive. He's eager to learn the unique facets of government accounting because it is a different form of accounting, which I thoroughly appreciate. He is a quick learner, and while he's only been with us a few months, he has learned how to navigate our accounting system very efficiently. I'm grateful to have him on our team, and I am also excited to see all the areas that you will excel, no pun intended.
Have you been saving that one all day?
Yeah. So congratulations to everybody. Welcome to the team and congratulations on your promotions.
Thank you very much. That was very heartfelt, and just saying to give us a kind of an idea of to put a little bit more to it than just a face and a name. So thank you very much for that. Any other comments from staff?
I was just gonna say good job to Gabe, but I have to follow that. No, so
Well,
Gabe,
you could always say what Nicole said.
yeah, what Nicole said about everybody else to you, Gabe. No, Gabe has been hired on as our maintenance worker and in the operations. He's taking on the fun responsibility of the irrigation, catching us up on right-of-way clearings, station clearings, and Gabe is everywhere all day long. So he hustles and he's always going, and sometimes you gotta remind him it's 5 o'clock. But he's the last guy you see show up in the office. You'll see him pulling around about 5:05. So Gabe stays busy. So thank you, Gabe. Good job. I did want to add one more thing that Nicole forgot about Norman and his singing talents. The guy can sing and dance. Just want to throw that out there.
What are you guys dating?
Thank you, James. You just gotta love moving irrigation pipe and taking care of irrigation, huh, Gabe? It's a fun job. I did that once upon a time. So did James, as a matter of fact. Oh, is that where that happened? So anyway, we'll move along to, public comment, I'm sorry. Public comment. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Dugan and I'm a McKinleyville resident, among other things. And I just wanted to say that I appreciate what you as a board are doing here. I get the end product of a lot of your staff. I run into James out in the field and he's easy to talk to, and he tries to kick me off the campus when I come in for meetings, and your staff is very approachable when I see them as I'm going through Hiller Park. I have the very great fortune of being able to work directly with Joey at the McMack meetings, and he is everything that Nicole said, and I am very grateful. And as I'll bet James Beitman knows, that good staff and good staff performance comes because there's good leadership. So that starts with you on the board level. And I don't know if it was good fortune or wisdom that you've had two excellent general managers, the current and just past. And so I believe that that really is the culture, is the reason for the culture. And yeah, thank you for the work that you do and the leadership that you provide. And thank you, Evie, for recently helping me with my valve problem. Anyway, you're very much appreciated.
Thank you.
David Baldosser. I still don't work for the Parks Department. I do somewhat, but, and you just saw the teamwork and the stuff. It was a planned spill of a cup of coffee and everybody jumped right on it. Worked out. But the guys got up, jumped right in. someday I'll have to ask Joey to see his driver's license because I insist on calling him Joseph. He's probably actually named Joey. But congratulations, Joe, on your motion. You've done a good job. Evie too, congratulations. You've been a pleasure to work with. And Norman stepped up and learning the billing, asking questions, figuring stuff out as he goes. Really appreciate that too. And Laurel is working her way in and figuring things out. So after so many years of no staff changes, it's been like a whirlwind here lately. But and Gabriel, it's a pleasure to have you outside there. You're always pleasant when you come in, and you're a good addition to the field crew. Benjamin, I haven't worked with you much, but welcome. Glad to have you on board. So, and I've got a minute and a half. I'll see what else I can come up with. Sing a song.
We haven't had any puns yet, Dave. I'm
We have,
surprised.
I mentioned this one to Pat earlier. Albert Einstein was a genius. His brother Frank was a bit of a monster. And it hasn't gotten, and I was gonna say we should give Dennis a cheer. Hip, hip, hooray.
Hey!
Yay. Anyways, I'm not gonna sing. Thank you, and as Lisa mentioned, the board provides leadership, and we appreciate your support. And Nicole, you're new here too, so welcome aboard. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? And there's nobody in the public or online. Okay, so
I had one.
oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, Laura, since you got David behind you, you have big shoes to fill because we expect you to know everybody's name when they walk in the office because of the tradition there. And thank you very much. for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something along those lines. I think the office staff is very lucky to have Dave's years of not only experience, but also his commitment to the public and his dedication to McKinleyville Community Services District. I think that's very helpful in helping get the office staff up to speed. So thanks a lot, Dave, for being there, because you have had a significant turnover in the last 2 years, 3 years, whatever. Time flies. Any other comments? Okay, so we'll move along to item E3, which is consider release of response to the Humboldt County Civil Grand Jury Report on Incorporation. That will be on page 117. And General Manager Kaspari will be presenting that. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Can you, Norman, can you promote Russ, please? Okay. So your legal counsel, Russell Gans, is also getting promoted. There he is. As the board is aware, the Humboldt County Civil Grand Jury came out with a report on the possibility of incorporating McKinleyville. This is included as attachment A, attachment 1 in your board packet. As detailed in the grand jury report, the grand jury made several findings and recommendations associated with Humboldt County and the Board of Supervisors supporting the preparation of an initial feasibility analysis on the potential for incorporation of the city of McKinleyville. At the June 7th, 2023 regular board meeting, the board authorized President Orsini, GM Kaspari, and District Legal Counsel Russ Gans to draft a response to the grand jury report. This letter was drafted and submitted to the grand jury on June 15th, 2023. On the original draft of the letter, President Orsini and GM Kaspari had CC'd John Ford, the Humboldt County Planning Director, Colette Sanchi, the LAFCO Executive Officer, Lisa Dugan, the MCMAC Chair, and Kevin Jenkins, the MICE Chair, or the McKinleyville Incorporation Exploration Subcommittee Chair. Given the confidentiality requirements surrounding grand jury inquiries, legal counsel Gans recommended that we not CC these individuals, but request that the grand jury send copies of our letter to them. This is what was done, and to date, approximately 7 weeks after the letter was sent, there is no indication that our letter has been forwarded on by the grand jury. President Orsini and GM Kaspari feel that it's important for government transparency, and given that the county and Micmac are in the process of responding to the grand jury report, that our response and outlined concerns be made available to these other entities and the public. Legal counsel Gans stated that generally the confidentiality requirements apply to the grand jurors themselves. Civil grand jurors are sworn to secrecy, and all of their proceedings are secret. Meeting minutes are immune to subpoena and cannot be inspected by any member of the public. Under Penal Code 924.1, it is a misdemeanor to divulge any evidence, anything said in proceedings, or how a grand juror may have voted on a matter. Confidentiality of interviewees and complainants is also a focal point for civil grand juries. That is why legal counsel recommended that MCSD first report to the grand jury that the district would like to share the letter with other responding agencies. That is, as it is vague as to where the grand jury is in the process with respect to this investigation. Given the lack of response from the grand jury, staff recommends that the district's response letter be forwarded to the individuals listed above, with the additional ramifications that the document would become a public document. So staff recommends that the board review the information provided, discuss, take public comment, and provide copies of the district's June 15, 2023 response to the Humboldt County Civil Grand Jury Report on McKinleyville Incorporation to other appropriate agencies and to make it a public document. I know your legal counsel had comments he wanted to add to the staff report too. So I guess now I would turn it over to Russ.
Yeah, just briefly, I was able to speak finally with Natalie Duke at Humboldt County Counsel's office. She serves in essence as the attorney for the civil grand jury. I shared with her our concern. She understood, of course, why we would be concerned, but also acknowledged that there's nothing really unique or likely to be a confidentiality concern with respect to this kind of very public type policy document. So I explained to her that the district board would like to share the correspondence and its concerns about potential incorporation considerations with John Ford County Planning and other public officials that have inquired, and she saw no concern related to that.
Thank you. Any other comment from staff? So I'll bring it back to the board. Do you have any comments from the board on this?
My comment is that if there's anything that we undertake that can be released to the public, that it will be released to the public. And so this is one of those instances.
Director Beitman, Director Couch, Director Mayo, who wants to go next? Director Mayo?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm still a little flummoxed about this. I of course turned in a FOIA request because there were some things said in the grand jury report that indicated perhaps information that they may have received that was likely factually incorrect or from conjecture. And I wanted to know what exactly they were told that made them come up with a couple of the suggestions, the timelines, etc. So I didn't get an answer. Our attorney kind of laid out a little bit of that, but I'm still unclear as to the obligation that an individual juror has after the report has been made, after the findings have been released. It's still my feeling, I won't say it's my understanding, but that each individual can now say what they want to say about the proceedings. Jurors all the time after someone's tried and convicted and the judgment's laid down, speak about what they did and why they did and what they did. And so I still have some, what I consider serious ethical questions about how this got there, what they were told that was the progenitor of the grand jury coming up with their timelines and suggestions. I don't know whether our attorney cares to comment about that or not. In fact, it may not make a damn anyway. This is one of them little peas that started rolling off a hill that's now a big old snowball. And I'm afraid we're going to waste a ton of money and a ton of time. But anyway, that's enough of my comments. If Russ cares to comment, that's fine. If not, Russ, that's fine too.
Just briefly, it'd be speculation on my part to know what motivated the civil grand jury to issue the report and request for comment in the first instance. But the reality is, of course, that the district has not appeared in front of the grand jury with respect to any proceedings. And this letter is simply a response to a public inquiry by the grand jury in its report for and solicitation for comment about this proposed incorporation study. So in terms of the issue in front of the board, it's really relatively discreet. It's just whether or not there are any confidentiality concerns about sharing this letter with the other public officials. And again, as I mentioned, county council sees no concern on that specific issue. Director Mayo's inquiries about what happened previously, can't speak to that, but.
Right.
Anyway.
Well, I appreciate that, Russ. And quite frankly, I think our response is appropriate and I support our response. And sometimes it's a lot like the question, does this dress make my you-know-what look big? There may never be an appropriate answer.
Thank you. Any other board members care to speak on this? No. Okay, I just I thought it was very important. Thank you, staff, for bringing this back. I think it's very important that that our actions as a board, and I think Director Binder alluded to this, is that we maintain transparency in what we do here, and think that going on the record publicly was very important that we do that, regardless of whether or not the grand jury is responsive to our response anyway. And that's all I really have to say about this. And I'm very much in full support of us going through with this. At this point in time, I'll bring it back to staff. Have anything else? No, then I'll open it up for public comment. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak on this? And nobody online? Okay. Seeing no further comment on this item, I will entertain a motion.
Well, I will move that we move to release our response to the Humboldt County Civil Grand Jury Report.
I'll second.
So good, Joey?
Director Bender,
Yes.
Director Bateman, Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
and President Orsini.
Yes. Thank you. So we'll move along to item E4, which is consider topics for joint McKinleyville Municipal Advisory Committee and MCSD Board meeting in October. And this is on page 131, and it will be presented by General Manager Kaspari.
Thank you, President Orsini. As the board is aware, MCSD's board policy manual and the McKinleyville Municipal Advisory Committee's, the MCMAC bylaws state that the entities will conduct an annual joint board meeting to discuss topics of interest to both. The joint meeting is tentatively scheduled for October 25th of this year. Staff will inform the MCMAC board president of topics outlined by the MCSD board for potential discussion. To assist the board, the following list of potential topics was developed by staff. However, the board should feel free to add any additional topics of interest. The topics the staff came up with include potential McKinleyville incorporation, the Measure B reauthorization presentation, and bringing the McKinleyville voice to county issues. So staff recommends that the board of directors consider potential meeting topics to discuss with the MCMAC board at the October 25th, 2023 joint meeting, take public comment and provide direction to staff on which topics to report back to the MCMAC that are of interest to the MCSD board for discussion.
Thank you. So I'll open it up to the board. Does the board have any comments on this item? Any suggestions for agenda items?
I have one, Greg.
Okay, go ahead, Director.
It may be already worked into what the GM said there, but this whole circulation deal in Central Avenue is a huge issue. And it affects MCSD more than the political. It affects us infrastructurally as well, pretty severely. And what we may or may not be doing with our community forest in the future, how that intersection there at Naveen's and the shopping center, which someday will perhaps be our gateway to our community forest. I think that's a big issue, and I think it's something that I don't want to see swagged. I'd like to see us do our due diligence, and may take several years to figure out.
Thank you. Anybody else from the board have any other comments or recommendations for agenda items?
Well, I didn't have any others, but just the first two on our list, that the potential McKinleyville incorporation and Measure B reauthorization. Those are so big. I'm happy with just those. The other one's good too, but I just see those first two as, you know, a couple hours each, probably.
And if I may throw in behind a Director Couch, I concur with the list, how they're proportioned on the list. And so if we think that the first two will take up more time, we could do the third one at a later time, perhaps, whatever.
All right, thank you. Director Beitman?
It may well be already in this list, especially under the potential of the McKinleyville incorporation. But I'm really puzzled, and I can't say it any other way than that. I've attended MCMAC meetings for years. And I was under the impression that MCMAC had no official role in the governance of McKinleyville.
Correct.
And now as I look at things, especially the grand jury report, there seems to be the assumption that MCMAC is the governing body for McKinleyville.
Correct.
And this whole thing puzzles me. And I don't know whether that can be part of this discussion agenda. So far as I know, there is only one agency that performs the functions of a governmental entity within McKinleyville, and that's MCSD. It provides the services that would normally be provided by a municipal government. And so at this point, I am totally puzzled about what is McMack? What's the relationship between McMack and MCSD? And what are the assumptions that are being made around the role of McMack and MCSD as the discussion goes forward on the possibility of incorporation of McKinleyville into a city? This to me seems to be, at the very least, confusing, and I'll say it that way.
Thank you. Yeah, I can understand how, so in the rules and regulations for the McMack is a purely advisory back to the Board of Supervisors, and it's a place for the people in McKinleyville to come and speak on items that are more of the county's jurisdiction, and to kind of vet those things, and then the information be brought back to the Board of Supervisors in recommendation. So that's really the authority that the McMack has. I think our interactions as both McKinleyville Community Services District being the authority for water, sewer, streetlights, and parks and recreation, and the McMack being really the only place where people in McKinleyville can go and speak without going directly to the Board of Supervisors, I think is the reason why we have these joint meetings. And I very much appreciate your concern. It seems like the grand, and this kind of going back to the grand jury report, the grand jury obviously never read the McMack's rules and regulations, because they wanted to endow the McMack with authority that the Board of Supervisors never intended for the McMack to have. And I think that will be addressed in the response from the McMack back to the Board of Supervisors from the grand jury. And maybe we could have a minor discussion during the joint meeting about who does what. Just very brief. And would you like that, or would that be amicable with you?
Thank you for restating what I said much more succinctly. Thanks.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead. Director Mayo.
Thank you. Well, Greg, and thank you for bringing that up. Therein lies really the rub for me, is that the grand jury made some pretty profound statements as if they had spoken to MCSD directly and had spoken to the McMack directly as if the McMack had some authorities. And that's what bothered me and why I did the FOIA, because that goes right directly to Director Beitman. Confusion. It's not really a confusion with me. It's an irritant. I mean, let things fall where they may, but I don't speak for the McKinleyville Community Services District on things that you don't authorize me to speak about. And I am totally upset that somebody would intimate that they were. Anyway, enough. I apologize.
Very good. Thank you, Director Mayo. So do we have any other comment on this item from the public? Yes, public comment.
Good evening. Since I am the current McMack chair, I thought I might as well say something, huh? So I'm on the website and it basically lines out what the McMack responsibilities are. Grand jury does not endow us with any special right or privilege, so we don't go by that. And basically the first paragraph lined out pretty much what you said, Greg. So I won't read that. The second one says a secondary responsibility of the McMack is to review, comment, and provide advisory recommendations to the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors on proposed zoning amendments and general plan petitions and amendments located within the McKinleyville planning area related to conformance with the McKinleyville Community Plan. The McMac will also discuss and provide input on long-range planning issues. And it goes on to say that the McMac does not weigh in on specific zoning and use permits, et cetera. So that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring this back to the board, and I'll entertain a motion.
Well, I'll jump in and make the motion. So I would recommend that we add this to the topics for our joint McKinleyville Municipal Advisory Committee and MCSD board meeting in October.
Do you want to list those topics?
Potential McKinleyville Incorporation, Measure B reauthorization presentation, and bringing the McKinleyville voice to county issues.
Well, I'll
First two.
second that if the maker would entertain the notion of adding our Central Avenue circulation issue third on the list if we have time.
I'm amenable to that.
So I will second that motion.
And then also, we had another item.
You guys are breaking up.
Would you accept that as a friendly amendment,
Yes.
Director Couch? So, General Manager Kaspari, would you reread that so that the seconder can hear what that other item was?
Sure. So the topics I have now are potential McKinleyville Incorporation, Measure B reauthorization. Director Mayo requested that circulation on Central Avenue be listed third. Then bringing McKinleyville voice to county issues as number 4. And number 5 is role of McMac and the relationship between McMac, MCSD, and the governance of McKinleyville.
Okay, very good. Is the board clear on the motion and the second?
Yes.
Yes.
Very
Yes.
good. Joy, could you please call the roll?
Director Bender,
Yes.
Director Beitman. Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
and President Orsini.
Yes, thank you very much. So I'm going to jump ahead. And to item E6. So this is item E6. It's on page 137, and it's consider approval of naming of a portion of the Badawada Public Access Project in memory of former Board of Director George Wheeler. And General Manager Kaspari will be presenting this.
Thank you, President Orsini. As the board is aware, this project was initiated to address the decommissioning and reclamation of the district's percolation ponds, but it has numerous benefits, including establishing off-stream habitat and providing public access to the district bluff area at the end of School Road and the Badawat or Mad River as it transitions to the ocean. This area is unceded ancestral territory of the Wiyot people and has a long history of use by the Wiyot tribe. Director Mayo has submitted an application for commemorative naming, see attachment 1 in your board packet, and would like to dedicate a portion of the project in memorial to former board director George Wheeler. George Wheeler served on the MCSD board from 2014 to 2018, including as the board president in 2016 and vice president in 2014 and 2018. Director Wheeler sat on various committees throughout his years on the board, including the Recreation Advisory Committee, the Water Task Force, the Ad Hoc No Drugs and Toxics Down the Drain, and the McKinleyville Senior Center Advisory Committee. Director Wheeler demonstrated to his constituents and colleagues the extent of his commitment to provide the best possible service to the community by pursuing and receiving the recognition and special district governance certification from the California Special District Association, Special District Leadership Academy. Director Wheeler tirelessly promoted the use of renewable and sustainable sources of energy, and during his tenure, he served as a remarkable and highly effective elected official and a passionate spokesperson for the limited use of chemicals for pest control at all district facilities. The district has a policy for the naming and dedication of district facilities, and that is included as also as attachment 1 in your board packets. The policy states in part, district facilities are public places, and as such, naming bestows some measure of value. Naming should be applied in order to bestow this value across all sectors of our community, with attention to representation of underrepresented communities, including but not limited to local tribes. The application for the naming of the facility was completed by Director Mayo, and it is included in your attachment. He believes that it would be appropriate to memorialize Director Wheeler in this place that he frequented by placing a small wooden sign on the split rail fence at the Bluff Creek overlook stating George's Trail, or by planting trees or native vegetation in his honor, or purchasing and placing a bench at the boat landing or the end of the trail, or some similar remembrance or plaque. The policy outlines criteria to be considered in naming a facility. The proposed name meets the general criteria outlined in section 4.1 in that it engenders a strong positive image, is appropriate in regard to the facility location, as Director Wheeler visited the Bluff area often. It commemorates a person that is of continued importance to the community. It is also the name of a person having longstanding affiliation with the McKinleyville community of significant community service involvement and contributions beyond the ordinary interest levels, whose efforts have enhanced the quality of life and well-being of community residents. The policy also states that the resolution shall be executed by the District Board of Directors via resolution. Resolution 2023-16 for naming a portion of the trail constructed as part of the restoration process, George's Trail, is included as attachment 3. So at this time, staff recommends that the board review the information provided, discuss, take public comment, and approve a portion of the trail associated with the public access project, George's Trail, by the approval of resolution 2023-15 by name only.
Thank you. At this time, I'll ask the board if they have any comments. Director Mayo, since you're the one who initiated this process, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
Well, I do, but I thought I would like to hear what the other board members had to say. I'll just preface by saying, after we have discussion, I'd like to make another comment. There are some financial considerations that I understand, and depending on what we decide that as a group that we would like to do, I mentioned to General Manager Kaspari earlier, as an example, if we decide to put in a bench and the board itself is not set up to where we can expend those funds directly for that or a portion of it, it would be my distinct pleasure to pay for that bench myself. And so I want to make that option open, and hopefully we have a nice discussion with the board and come up with something beautiful to honor our dear friend.
Thank you, Jan. Thanks for bringing that up, Director Mayo. So I think we have a couple of fish to fry here, and that's one, approving the resolution, and then also another thing of how we want to engender this act, what that should look like, whether it's a naming the trail, a bench, or how we want to do that. So I think I'd like to open the discussion up to the board first, and then to staff, and then to the public, and kind of hash through that if we can. So anyway, hopefully the board will participate in this conversation.
Okay, well, I guess I'll start. I'm looking at the resolution 2023-15 as printed on page 145. And it does refer to to the applicant, Dennis Mayo, as Director Dennis Mayo. Whereas in his handwritten application on page 143, he's applying as an individual. So would that make any difference to the resolution?
I think it's semantics, frankly. Russ left us. So.
Okay. I'm real good at semantics.
I don't think it makes a big difference, but we can follow up with legal counsel to see if it does. We would have to bring the resolution back if we wanted to change that to individual. But I don't think it's a conflict of interest at all for a director to bring this to the board.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to have a little history. So I remember back when George got involved with MCSD, and he got involved because we have our field there that we use for irrigation of wastewater as disposal method. And our lessee, we lease that out to people for haying, decided to spray it for broadleaf herb controls to make better hay. And that was not very popular with the neighbors, and George was one of those neighbors. And I totally agree with him that was, not a good thing to do. It was one of those things that wasn't really a board or district decision. It was our lessee who decided to do it on his own. And it was just, a bad decision considering where it was in relation to the community. And that got George fired up to serve on the board, which was actually a good thing because he was a good board member, and I appreciate, his years of service. And I think it's really appropriate that the site is where it is just because of that relationship. So that was kind of my comment on that.
Thank you. Director Beitman, do you have any comments?
Only one thought, and it's just simply what is not mentioned in all of this, which is the role of the Yurok people.
Yeah, could you speak into the microphone a little bit more?
I'm sorry, just only one thought, and it's only as I'm looking through this, I don't see any. It's unclear about the role of the Yurok people in this process, and that doesn't mean them to suggest anything other than I just don't see that.
Well, you might notice, Director Beitman, that we named the whole facility previously. And so that honoring that was something that we put foremost, and the naming of the facility as well. And this is just a very nice little addendum to honor someone who actually helped make all of that previously happen.
Yeah, General Manager Kaspari.
Yeah, and thank you, Director Beitman, for bringing that up. So the original intent in this board packet was, as the board will remember a few months back, we brought 2 signs to the board for approval. And there are 3 remaining signs that the Wiyot tribe was reviewing and were going to approve before the tribal council was going to approve before we brought it to this board for approval. Well, they didn't approve them yet. So we thought they would have them approved for this meeting, and we were going to bring them back at this meeting, but they're not approved by tribal council. So they will be coming back to this board, I think, next month. But and so those 3 signs also kind of talk to the Wiyot, previous use of the land, et cetera.
Yeah, and I think that and if I may add, I think that these 2 different concepts can coexist, naming a part of the trail after Director George Wheeler, Director Wheeler, and also the paying homage to the WIAT can happen simultaneously. So I don't perceive myself personally an issue with us moving forward with this.
And quite frankly, guys, I don't mean to be too pushy on this, but I think there's a synergy there that's very important, that we're all looking out for each other. George was very important to him to look out for all aspects of this, not just the district and not just the trail and not just the fish, but for the connection with that being significant to the WIAT people. So, and it was a big part of George's deal. So I don't see any inconsistency in this whatsoever.
Yeah, so I just think that I'm gonna open this up to comment at this time, to public comment, and then I'll have more to say after I hear public comment. So anyway, at this point in time, I'd like to open this up for public comment.
Hi, good evening. My name is Megan O'Brien and Joyce King. Well, let's back up a little bit. Well, Joyce King was the one who reported the weasel in her yard as a result of the 2,4-D that was being sprayed on your leased land. And I remember so distinctly, that's when George started the Folks in the Folding Chairs campaign. And we did the petitions and whatnot. And I had the privilege and honor of running George's campaign to run for the MCSD board. It was a wonderful experience. But Joyce King had asked me to read something. It's just a few lines. Is this the right time to do this?
Sure.
George was my hero. He showed that conflict doesn't have to be polarizing. He kept an open mind, open heart, and always looked for the big picture. He listened with genuine respect for what mattered to people before standing up for what he believed was right. And in around 2008, he showed me that rooftop solar could actually work in our cloudy West McKinleyville. I love and miss him. And that's Joyce King. And I just wanted to do a quick PS in terms of Marvin Peachy. He's now kind of a hero. If any of you are familiar with the Beck's Bakery and the bread subscriptions that they do, and they use all locally grown organic grains. And I wish I could pull this up. I wonder if I could pull it up on my computer, but I subscribe, and this is straight out of her material. The wheat was grown in Humboldt County by Marvin Peachy. It is a variety called Hollis. The rye was grown by Marvin as well. It is a variety called Gazelle. All of Marvin's grains are certified organic. And I have to think that George must love the wonderful transformation of that land, from the issue of the pesticide use to now a certified organic producer. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public?
Hello, my name is John Corbett, 1801 Ocean Drive. I did want to say that I think the director raised a sleeping issue, and that is this territory, I think, is very clearly WIAT, but if you get a little further east, it isn't, it's Yurok. And the rest of the culture does not meet with the Yurok, so they only discuss WIAT. But I would be very careful in all the projects to do your consulting and that you're right on the mark that we could easily end up with insulting both tribes if we don't do it right. I wanted to speak, first of all, George was right on most of the substantive issues, but I'm going to talk about him more as a human being and the complexities of being a board member in the modern world. And everyone thinks you get elected to the board and what to do and what the procedures are, but California is very complex. And it probably takes 2 to 3 years to learn it if you are focusing on it. And I still can't run a mic, you know. And so the first thing is George was comfortable in his skin, and that's very important for someone serving on a board because they're not needy for the public doing this. And then he was able to form opinions, and he could get passionate behind his opinions, and that's absolutely essential. But to round the curve, George has some other great skills. The first is he could count to 3. And it is not uncommon to have brilliant board members who can't count to 3 and they don't get anything done because you got to get 3 board members to get things done. So he recognized almost out of the gate that he had to figure out a way to appeal across the aisle to get at least 2 more votes, and the advantage of getting unanimous votes. And so that was a great skill. The other thing George did and why he got wise as fast as he did is he talked to everybody and he listened to everybody. And surprise, surprise, you'll learn a lot that way. And so I think he picked up a tremendous amount of information just by talking to people and listening to people. And everyone says they're going to do that in the campaign, but it's hard to do. You have your own set social groups and you have these other things, and he was able to reach out to everybody. And I think that's one reason why he was as successful as he was. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other public comment?
Thank you for this proposal. I'm Jennifer Wheeler, George's late spouse. So I'm a little nervous because it's an emotional subject, but I'm really enjoying it. And thank you, Dennis, for the proposal. George thought that he came late to public service, but really his whole life he volunteered to go to Vietnam as a Marine and fought and was exposed to Agent Orange, which ended up being his demise after 20 years of having lymphoma. So the integrated pest management proposal and all that anti-herbicide passion came from a place of internal desire that nobody else go through that experience through inadvertent exposures. And so I appreciate that. He's also caring about the environment, but he's also, he's served the public as a postal worker. He served as a teacher at what's now called Cal Poly Humboldt. He really cared about people and the community and giving back. And I remember he was especially with our stepson, my stepson, his son Garrett, who had a surfing accident. The community really poured out to help. He so wanted to give back. And I remember the day I was laying on the floor in the living room and I was reading the paper that Jack Durham wrote before it was the Mad River Union, advertising for a spot on the board. And I said, hey, you could run for the board. And the next day he calls me at work down in Eureka, said, do we have $500? I want to run for the board. And I'm like, oh. And he ran and got on the board and ran for solar, ran for clean parks to protect our kids and numerous other passionate projects. But I just really want to thank you. He was so grateful to give back to his community and cared so much. And I miss his big smile. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I wish I hadn't waited till after Jennifer went because now it's a little tougher. George was a friend. He was a neighbor in the greater neighborhood. George was a man with a huge heart. He inspires me in the way that he led and worked with everyone and spoke with everyone and listened to everyone. He asked Johnny to take a spot that he was leaving on the homeless housing I don't remember the long name of it. It's kind of like the Mies Committee. It's got a really long name, but anyway, he inspired Johnny to further public service. And he was just an inspiring man. I appreciate the work he did here on MCSD. Living in that neighborhood, I ended up riding my bicycle by one day as that spray was being sprayed and not realizing it until later. And so I appreciate the work that he's done. I appreciate the man he was, and I just love his family as well. So I appreciate and thank you, Director Mayo, for putting this forward. And I'd be really happy as a person in the neighborhood to see this happen.
Thank you. Any more public comment? So I'll take my turn now. So when George got on the board, he we had quite a few conversations as the general manager, and I think what was said here about him is very pertinent. Is George wanted to do the best job he could do, so he asked a lot of questions, and he took it very serious being on the board, and George had beliefs. He had very strong beliefs, and he was very assured of himself in those beliefs. But he did understand that he had to function on a 5-member board. And I remember us talking one time, because we traveled a lot to conferences. So we got those chances to talk a little bit more off the record. When I was in the office and busy, he would come in and we would talk about district stuff. But when we traveled, we would get a chance to talk about other things. And he told me one time, he said, Greg, I finally figured out, he goes, the difference between politics and governance. And he goes, you know, a lot of times I have to leave my politics at home when I come to the meetings, because I'm there to govern for McKinleyville Community Services District. And I think that's something that if you spend time on a board, on an elected board, or in some elected position, and you can't figure out the difference between politics and governance, you're not going to be effective for the people you represent. And I'm so glad that George told me that, because it resonates with me still to this day, that there's a difference between politics and governance. And I think that, and one of the other comments that was said about Marvin Peachy's evolution from running up to Oregon and buying an herbicide that's not legal in the state of California, to now learning how important it is to do organic farming, and refine those when he's a leasee at the ranch. And I think that without the community's uproar about that, I don't think that Marvin would have learned those lessons. So I think Marvin has probably learned a lot from that too. So I want to thank the neighbors that your anger that you had, or your concern that you had about what was going on at the ranch, because trust me, Mr. Peachy definitely didn't do that. He was not authorized to spray on the ranch. And as the board members that are here today that were on the board then, I'm sure that they would reinforce that. So anyway, I think the last thing that I'd like to say is a little bit more nuts and bolts about, I'm very much in support of naming a section of the trail or some feature at the bluff in George's honor. And I'd be very happy to, if there's financial strings attached to that, I will also throw in for that, whatever that might be. So at this point in time, I think that I would like to entertain a motion for the resolution 2315. And I would like staff to come back to the board with a proposal for how we're going to fulfill the spirit of this. Would that be okay?
I'm sure, can staff offer a recommendation?
If you want to offer a recommendation at this moment and cut out having another board meeting, absolutely.
Yeah, so staff would recommend that we do produce a sign, a carved sign saying George's Trail. The site really needs additional vegetation. And it could use some good native trees planted as well. So I think, and this is staff's recommend or staff's opinion, that, you know, buying a couple native trees and planting them at appropriate location there with a sign calling out as George's Trail would be staff's recommendation.
Okay. Director Mayo, does that kind of fit in with the spirit of your intention?
Yes, and I think that would be very fine, and I would so move that motion. And also, I think it would be very appropriate if general manager and the board president reached out to Ted at the Wiyot Tribe too, just to make sure we're all on the same page.
Thank you.
Or the Wiyot Tribe. I apologize. John Corbett fouled me up there. My apologies. John,
And
you
so-
always foul me up.
So anyway, and that was one, and so John, just to give you a little maybe a relief on this, the whole interaction between the multiple tribes, we discussed that during the naming process, and the kiosks will be vetted with all the tribes so that we don't get ourselves afoul in that process.
Yes. So I make that motion.
Okay, so anyway, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Joey, would you go ahead and call the roll?
Director Bender,
Yes.
Director Bateman,
Yes.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
and President Orsini.
Yes.
And could I say, I apologize for not being there, Jennifer. I'm glad you were here this evening.
She said, "You're welcome, Dennis."
Thank you.
Well, I think this has been Dennis's style for a long time, John, so.
Especially when he's not here.
So anyway,
I had a comment too. I was gonna
go
ask
ahead.
Jennifer Wheeler, if George's Trail is not the best thing, I mean, I don't think we're committed. If something would be better that you would like to suggest.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, you're.
Okay.
No,
That's why I was asking.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me about that, Jennifer. Yeah, I think the reason why we ended up with that step in there was that was one of George's things that he felt very strongly about with that. So maybe that would be more appropriate. How do you feel about that, Director Mayo?
I didn't hear, but I know what you're talking about. And I have no fixed agenda other than honoring George.
Okay, very good. So could we kind of modify that? We don't need to. We can just give staff recommendation to move forward with that. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Thanks for bringing that up. It slipped out of my mind because I was going to bring that up. Yeah. So I think that's it on that item. We got everything we need on that item?
Up to
Okay,
vote.
so. Oh, okay, yeah, go ahead. We
voted.
called the roll. We're done.
We voted.
Oh, I want to vote again.
Dennis Mayo?
Yes.
I missed the second vote. So anyway, so we'll jump back to item E5, which is consider the regular board. Oh, thank you very much for showing up. I very much appreciate it. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so we'll go to item E5, which is consider the regular board meeting dates, times, and locations for 2024 calendar year. And this will be presented by our board secretary, Joey Blaine, or is that Joseph Blaine?
It is Joey Blaine. But it is Joseph on my driver's license. Both the MCSD rules and regulations under Regulation 61, board meetings, Rule 61.0, regular meetings, and the Board of Directors Policy Manual under Part 5, Board's Meeting Procedures, Rule 5-1, regular meetings, address this topic. Regular meetings of the Board of Directors shall be held on the first Wednesday of each calendar month at 6 p.m. at either Azalea Hall, 1620 Pickett Road, or the District Office, 1656 Sutter Road, as specified by the agenda. Additionally, the public may be able to attend regular board meetings by teleconference via Zoom and telephone. The date, time, and place of the regular meeting shall be reconsidered annually. 2 regularly scheduled board meetings land on potentially problematic dates. The January board meeting will be just after the holidays on January 3rd, 2023. The July meeting date falls on July 3rd, the day before an observed federal holiday. There are 2 options that may be considered. Either move the meeting to the following Wednesdays or cancel the meeting and consolidate with the next regular meeting. Historically, when this has happened, the January board meeting has been moved to the second Wednesday of the month, and the July meeting is often canceled and consolidated with the August meeting. Since both have a record of being shorter in length, and annual items appearing in July are able to be moved to August while still meeting time requirements. Board members are encouraged to review all the proposed dates and come to the October 4th, 2023 board meeting with any other potential conflicting dates.
Thank you. So on page 135, we have the list of dates. And as Joey said, January 3rd could be problematic since it's 2 days after the first. And I think our hangover should be over by January 3rd, but just in case. My proposal for, so I think the rest of them, I think February, March, April, May, June, August, September, October, November, and December it's pretty straightforward, and I don't think there's any real consideration for that. So what I would propose is that the January 3rd board meeting, since it's the beginning of the year and there's a lot of routine things that have to be done at that first board meeting, that we move the January board meeting to January 10th. And that way we can get it done. It'll also help staff experience with getting the board packets out to the board on time. It's I think that pushing the meeting to the 10th will make it easier for staff with the holidays and such to be able to get the board meeting done. And then since the July meeting is on the 3rd, and we canceled the board meeting this year, we just basically canceled it. And now here we are in August, and the August meeting seems to be very manageable. So I would propose that we just go ahead and cancel the July meeting. But I'll go ahead and open it up for comment from the board. Any questions, comments, input?
Well, I'm good with staff's recommendation, which you pretty much reiterated verbatim.
Mhm.
Same for me.
Good.
I'm good.
You good? Cool. So I'll entertain a motion.
Oh, we don't have to even do a
We
motion.
don't have to do.
Oh, that's right. This is none. Okay.
Informational.
So anyway, so staff recommendation, or recommend back to staff, would be to, go ahead and, we'll move the January meeting to, the 10th, cancel the July meeting, and then, the rest of the meetings will all fall on the first Wednesday.
We will bring it back for approval in October.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now we're going to move along to item E7, which is review and discussion of annual board self-evaluation. And that will also be presented by the board secretary, Joy Blaine.
Per the Board of Directors Policy Manual, Rule 11, the board is committed to its own performance as a board in order to identify the board's strengths and areas in which it may improve the board's functioning. The goals of the self-evaluation are to clarify roles, to enhance harmony and understanding among board members, and to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of the board meetings. The ultimate goal is to improve MCSD policies for the benefit of the McKinleyville community and employees of the district. Members of the board completed the approved self-evaluation questionnaire consisting of several open-ended questions. The results have been compiled for the number of board members that completed the forms in attachment 1. Staff recommends that the board review the information presented, process desired outcomes and overall compilation of the data, open for public comment, and discuss the results of the 2023 board self-evaluation.
Thank you. So as we get ready to talk about this, one of the things one of the things I want to ask the board before we have a discussion on this item is something that what excited you and brought you to the board? I'd like each one of you to think about that, and if you could answer that question as you're providing your comment back to the board for this meeting. Also, I would like if hopefully everybody's reviewed the comments from the other board members, and if there's anything that struck you or that you wanted clarification on, I would very much appreciate to hear that at this point in time. So anyway, we'll go ahead and open it up for board comment question at this time. I have to call in these individually to get you to talk, or you guys want to chime in freely? Director Beitman?
Or considering joining this board, and which prompted me to start doing some investigation. I really didn't know, although I've been in this community, living in this community since year 2000. So I've been here for 24 years as a McKinleyville resident. I didn't know what MCSD did other than water and sewer. And then little by little, I began to discover just exactly how much this organization does for this community. And that leaves me with the question of how many other people in this community are in the same position that I was, not really knowing. And I have to admit, I do not like to spend time on websites. I rely more on the conventional media or word of mouth conversations and so on. I especially remember as I was So, accepting this position, having one neighbor and friend come to me and congratulate me and tell me what wonderful thing it was that that I would join the board, and started to ask her questions about, well, what does that mean? And I didn't get very much. So as I look down through here in terms of the one area that I would suggest a concern is, I guess I'll put it very simply. How do we toot our horn in this community? Is it, writing for the couple of publications that we have, North Coast Journal and Mad River Union. But that was the one question that stood out to me as I went down through this list. Just suggest that as a question that I'd like to see addressed.
Thank you. Comments? No? So you don't want to answer the question?
Can you restate your question?
Sure. What excites you and or brought you to the board, to serve on the board?
Well, I'll go. So I was interested because, I worked in water and wastewater, and I lived in McKinleyville, and I used to come to a lot of board meetings actually before I served on the board. And I was usually the one person over there in the empty seat section. And eventually I decided that I would rather sit on the board than just be here as a spokesperson. So I ran for the board. And at the time, I would say I diversified the political position of the board somewhat. So, so those are my comments for.
Thank you.
Well, I guess I was first drawn to running for the board in November of 2020 by pressure from the community. I know a lot of people, I do a lot of things, and I know a great cross section of the community involved in a lot of things. And they kept telling me, Bender, you should run for the MCSD. I think you'd be a great board member. Of course, me being full of self-doubt and everything, I really didn't want to do it, but it finally got to the point where too many people were asking me, and they seemed to see something in me that I didn't see in myself. So I reached out on faith and ran. Here I am today. Now I do have that drive to continue and continue on doing the best of my ability to carry on the mission of the district as written. And I'm pretty happy being here.
Director Mayo?
Well, what can I say? Somewhat the back side of what Director Couch said. I've been involved in politics my entire life. Each and every one of you have, if you think about it. You're married, you have a mom and dad, you have brothers and
We lost you, Dennis.
sisters, you have mom. Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Yeah, we can hear you again.
All right. Well, I don't know where I got to, but
When you were saying brothers and sisters about politics.
all right. We're all involved in politics all the time. We just don't realize it. People go, I don't know how you can be involved in politics. And I tell them, if you got a wife and a brother and a sister and a mom and a dad and a job, and we all do politics every day. And the way to do politics right is to stick with the nuts and bolts. And so I've been involved in the gymkhanas, the rodeos. I was a board member of the not the PRCA, but a precursor of that was the International Rodeo Association. I was a board member, and I've been a board member of all kinds of stuff that were more nuts and bolts. Worked on the Pony Express parade a lot, put on 5 rodeos. My wife and I put on 5 rodeos here ourselves, and we never could get the Chamber of Commerce to pick it up. But having said all that, I knew Grant Ramey very well. I knew Ed Estes, all the directors, and I was noticing something that still exists in the community and in the greater politic, if you will, but it does not exist at MCSD anymore. And it was my mission, and your mission only gets done as President Orsini says, if you can count to 3. Right off the bat, I said, we're not going to play politics with who's the board president each and every time. We're going to set up policies. We're going to work on nuts and bolts that makes this organization flow correctly. We can have our differences, and we do, as we should, but what President Orsini said that George Wheeler told him as well. Governance versus politics. So it was my ardent desire, and I want to tell you that John Corbett being there was a big help to that. We want to do governance, and I wanted us to do governments, and I wanted people to see that just because I think you're a bunch of lefty nuts, that you still have value when you have value, and I will incorporate that. And hopefully that when you think, oh, you're just a redneck, that maybe you'll see that I have value and we can work together. And I believe we've done that. Now, you probably didn't want to get this deep into what the passion was that brought us to the board, but that was it for me, Greg. It meant a lot to me. It means a lot to me. If you're going to do a job, do the damn thing right. And I think we do. I hope I was a little part of making that happen.
Thank you. Yeah, I think for me, what brought me here is I think the overarching thing that brought me to this point was moving to McKinleyville. When I first moved to Humboldt County, I lived in Arcata for about 6 months or something. Then I moved to McKinleyville, and as soon as I moved here, I sort of felt something different about McKinleyville, and sent my kids to school here. I within reason, let my kids run around town. And there was just this environment that made me comfortable with living here. And by happenstance, I ended up getting a job working for McKinleyville Community Services District. And it fulfilled a lot of, not only did it pay me a wage, but it also allowed me to give back to my community. And so I think that a lot of the reason why I loved working for McKinleyville Community Services District, and I'm on the board now, has to do with repaying our community for being what it is.
Yeah, pay it back.
And in the public service part of it, I think that if we're not serving something above or bigger than ourselves, you're probably not fulfilled. And I think that goes a long way with making you comfortable in your life. is by finding something that's bigger than yourself and serving that. And so I think that, and I hope Pat doesn't mind me saying this, but Pat also, when I was talking to Pat about considering applying for the job, I don't think it was spoken. I definitely know it wasn't written down, but I think that there was a promise made that I would run for the board of directors if he applied for the job. So, so anyway,
so it's your fault, Pat.
so anyway, I just want to say that, and I would also like to say thank you to the board for taking the time to sit down and answer these questions. I know that we all have different styles on how verbose our answers were, but thank you very much for everybody for putting forth the effort necessary to get your answers down on paper. And thank you for staff for aggregating our answers for us. I very much appreciate that, and herding the cats and getting them all done on time. And reminding us that didn't get them in, though I guess this was pretty easy for you. You got these back in a timely manner.
Yeah.
Very good. So thank you to the board for doing that. And also, so now I would like to I'd like to address Director Beitman's question about how do we reach the people that we serve. And I think that that's a question that that we're in the process of answering. I know that I see on Facebook often things about our staff, and those are great. But I think that Director Beitman brings up a good point. A lot of people don't use computers, or don't like, or make whether they like it or not, they make a conscious effort to spend as little time on computers as possible. So I think that maybe that might be something that we might address. And I don't know if, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Jim, but is that sort of kind of where you're going with this? Is somehow that, and we can handle this, and we're still in the process of doing our strategic plan. And I think that we could have this as a conversation of how do we tell our story? There's an old saying that goes, if you don't tell your story, somebody's going to tell it for you. And I think what you brought up is very pertinent and important. And I would like to see us have a further discussion on that.
Right. Could I comment on that, Greg?
Sure.
So, Joey, I don't know whether you shared my comments with the GM or not about the PR that came out of our tank dedication.
He did.
All right, that bothered me a lot. That tank dedication wasn't a sales pitch for incorporation. That dedication was about the forward thinking and the hard work that this district has done to do our due diligence for a community that taxes themselves and gives us the authority to manage these things for them. It wasn't about incorporation, and that really irritated me to have that whole article end up with that last paragraph. It's up to us to make sure that we set the agenda for our own communication.
Yeah, I think you're right, Dennis. And I think you said it, you definitely gave an example for the old saying that if you don't tell your story, somebody else will tell it for you.
Yep.
Jim, did
Yep.
you have more comments?
Yeah. As I said, I've lived in McKinleyville since the year 2000. And I said again and again, I'd like to have an opportunity to be of service to the community. My history is that when I have lived in other communities, I've found ways of being of service. I was on the board of a community arts organization. We restored an 1850s opera house and turned it into a very vibrant center to a small community. And I got great pleasure out of that, but mostly what I get pleasure out of is the notion that I'm somehow or other contributing in a very positive way. What I found in MCSD was the spirit of contributing to the community. And that's staff, that was the board, that was everybody I spoke with, was embodying the spirit of contributing. This is an important community. It's an important community for everybody. And finding that there was an organization where everybody who was associated with it had a strong sense of service and contribution to the community was surprising and refreshing. And the other side of it, though, as I mentioned earlier, it was a bit disappointing that I lived here for 20 years and never really knew that. Once in the organization, the other thing is, some of you know my background, I've taught management all over the world, was to find out how well run the organization is. And I don't mean that in a strictly mechanical way, that the people work together. They put the energy into it, and I guess I'm making a nuisance out of myself with some of my friends and neighbors, because I'm saying again and again, this is an amazingly well-run organization. And that was part of what was really appealing to me. So those are the two things, and of course, as you just said, you know, if you don't tell your story, somebody else will tell it for you, and you may not like what they tell.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So anything else from the board? Staff?
Yeah, I would like to chime in a bit. This is a great board. You have a great staff that works for you. Totally agree with everything said. And then, you know, we've been getting the surveys back on Measure B, and it's extremely frustrating when you ask the question of, you know, what should we be working on or focusing on? And people respond, oh, you should fix the roads. And it's like, oh, geez, how many times have we said that we have nothing to do with the roads? I am going to put it back to the board too. You know, the staff is really close to this. We have the articles that we run. I write my article for the newsletter. We know what MCSD does. And we tell that to people every day. But I'm going to put it back to the board too. If you have recommendations on who we should be reaching out to, how we can get our story out there, I would very much welcome those. And I think it would be good to bring fresh ideas to that question. So if you have any, we're open to them.
Yeah, and I know, and I just want to kind of piggyback on what Pat said. I think that it's inevitable that when we do the Measure B ballot, no matter how hard we try to reach out to the public, people are going to come to the board meeting and they're going to say, this is the first I've heard about this. Why did you not make an attempt to reach out? It happens time and time again. And it doesn't just happen in McKinleyville. my exposure to the state special, the different special districts in the state, different municipalities in the state. It's not an uncommon thing. So I think that, is the effort, will the effort bear fruit, and is there payback for that effort? Jim, I think there absolutely is. And I think it's important that we think about that, and we try that we keep on banging our drum, and that we find different venues for telling our story. I think we can never do that enough. I appreciate what staff is doing right now. I see it. It's an ever evolving thing because technology changes. I don't think when was the last time anybody accessed their MySpace account? So, and Facebook is going to go that way too pretty soon. I mean, with Instagram and X, I'm up on it. I woke up this morning and opened my phone up, and I'm like, what the hell is this X app? And then it dawned on me that Musk changed the name of Twitter to X. So anyway, things change. So I think that going back to the old for things is important, but also keeping an eye on what's going on with the future is important when it comes to being able to tell our story.
Right.
And maybe, and I don't know, we're getting ready to have another strategic planning meeting here pretty quick. Maybe we could spend a half hour or something like that talking about that. If that would be okay, if we're not bound by our times and the things that we're going to do. And I would propose that the board members, some homework for you. Come back with at least 2 ways that we can tell our story that we're not doing right now.
Right. Can I comment to what you said, Greg?
Absolutely.
So, I apologize. Everybody that's known me for 10, 20, 30, 50 years realizes I put everything in context to raising horses. That also relates to farming because I've done a lot of farming. I've got a big old black horse. You all might have seen me riding in the parade, and you might have seen me at the rodeos roping on Old Kings 19. Probably among one of the better horses that's ever lived. But I didn't get that horse broke. I owned his mom and I owned his dad, and I put him in mama's oven and I raised him up. And when he was 2, I started him and I started working him. And the same thing when I farmed, and I farmed commercially. If you plant a crop, you might get a crop grown. If you don't plant a crop, you will not get a crop to sell. So it doesn't matter in the end how well we're taken, whether people actually pay attention to what we say or not. We hope they do. What's important for us is the beginning effort, to do the nuts and bolts. And yes, I'll bring several things for us to talk about. I hope everybody else does. And that's what we have to do. We have to continually put ourselves out there, plant our crops, and maybe they will grow. If they don't grow, it isn't because we didn't try.
Thank you. Any other comments on this item? All right. Thank you very much. That was very productive. So we'll move along to reports now. Active committee reports. We have Parks and Recreation Committee. Director Bender.
I was not in attendance.
And Parks and Rec Director Frisbee, are the minutes in your staff report?
Yes, the notes are in my staff report.
Okay, thank you. Anything of highlight that you would like to bring up about that? No, okay. Thank you. Area fund? Did the area fund meet? Scott?
Did not meet as far as I know. I've never had anything to do with the area fund since I was appointed.
Okay, Joey, could you check and make sure that his contact information's been forwarded to John Colstead? It has been, okay.
You want
'Cause
to
I
talk
know
to
that-
John, he'll be at the Thursday music sessions in the park.
Yeah, because I don't know how often they meet, but I know that they meet to give money every year.
Yep. They were
It's
very
usually in
kind.
the spring. They
Huh?
gave out their grants in April.
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
very kind to us.
Well, and you never got contacted?
It could have been because I was an applicant and recipient of one of their mini grants.
Okay. So maybe we should consider that when you sign committee assignments in January. The McKinleyville Senior Center Board Liaison. Director Bender.
Doing better all the time. Cribbage group has some regulars now and lots of drop-ins, and gonna be starting up a knitting and crocheting group here pretty quick that has a lot of internal support already, so the leadership is built in. And we're starting to be recognized more and more by different sources. We did get a nonprofit of the year by the McKinleyville Chamber of Commerce. Measure B gave us the Measure B survey, recognized the senior center as having a great deal of support. And now we got an award from Nextdoor.com, whose participants in well, if you're not familiar with Nextdoor.com, it's kind of like Facebook, only it's neighborhood or regionally oriented. And we're nominated by our neighbors as one of the best businesses in our category. So we got our little award on the bulletin board out there. And we're starting to improve. And where to go but up.
Could I ask a housekeeping question?
So, Dennis.
For Leslie and you, what did we ascertain and did we get it corrected, that disgusting foul odor last Thursday?
I think that's a Mr. Henry question, isn't it?
I don't know, but I'm just
No,
curious.
are you talking about at Azalea Hall?
Yes, ma'am.
So we had the HVAC systems replaced, and the contractor who did that work made an error and sprayed a solvent on one of the units without covering up the venting system. And so then it seeped in through the building. But our guys showed up at 6 a.m. the next day, figured it out and covered it up and cleaned it out. And
Oh,
now
thank you,
everything
sir.
is just fine.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was quite a shocker.
Thank you. So, audit committee, we did not meet. Employee negotiations,
We did not meet.
McKinleyville Municipal Advisory Committee. We did meet. We actually had two meetings. We met we met on Tuesday of last week and had a discussion from Dan Burden, who's they did a walkability audit on Saturday. And he gave us a briefing. Well, he was supposed to give us a briefing on the audit, but it was more of a sales pitch.
Yes.
Is what I got out of it. I wasn't the only one there, so I might for what he could do for our community as a consultant if we narrowed Central Avenue. And then the McMack meeting, we were supposed to discuss the the draft with changes, not the final draft, but the draft with changes that was going to be used for the EIR. And because county planning staff didn't get that to us in time for the public or the McMac to review the changes, we postponed that item, and that'll come back to the board in either August, or the McMac in either in August or September, depending on how long it takes to get the wetland assessment needed to come back, and that wasn't done, and that caused a lot of consternation amongst a few members of the public. And so we're holding off until we get that back. And you know, after that hoo-ha, I kind of went blank on the rest of the meeting. Pat, could you help me out on it? Yeah, I didn't think we didn't get anything much more than that done.
Could I ask a clarifying question when it's appropriate?
Absolutely.
So I read your primer draft on your housing units and the parking, circulation parking on Hiller, which I liked quite a bit. I was wondering, did you guys talk about that much, or is that something that we're going to be delving into at a later date?
No, we postponed the whole item because of
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
because Director Ford was looking for a recommendation to move forward with doing a request for qualifications for the IR and using the draft.
Gotcha.
The draft ordinance.
Have you had any basic feedback on that plan, Greg, or is that something that we just want to talk about later?
No, I haven't had any feedback on it.
Okay, just cursory. I thought it made really good sense, and I would certainly support your guys's concept there.
Okay, thank you. I'll note that. How did I jump by that? So we'll go to Redwood Region Economic Development Commission. Director Beitman.
I'll start out by saying it's a very interesting collection of people and representation.
Yes.
That board has a representative of every, I think every community, incorporated or non incorporated, in Humboldt County.
Yep.
And at every board meeting, there's a period of time in which every person around the table says what they're doing, what's going on in their community. And it can be things like Rio Dell is actually rebuilding, and it might actually come back to life again after the earthquake, and those sorts of comments. I saw it as an opportunity to say some very positive things about what's going on in McKinleyville, and the groundbreaking for the 4.5 million gallon tank immediately sparked interest among people around the table. And I found it very interesting that I was in a position that McKinleyville looks like the county leader, and people were very appreciative of it. So specifically what actually happened there, they have the way that Greg Foster has set up the meetings. He has some speaker or somebody come in and talk, and this time it was Redwood Coast Energy Authority, and the talk was all about the development of a statewide rural regional energy network, and Humboldt County has taken a lead in that. RCEA is the lead agency in pretty much the entire state. at least the northern part of the state. I thought that was very, very interesting. And the most interesting part of it to me was, of course, that this is responding to the allocation of resources for in the regulated energy area, which basically read PG&E, and trying to get more of it directed back to the poor and rural, read Humboldt County. That was, he does that each meeting, and it's interesting to listen to these people. And it's also interesting to listen to what's going on with the port and those sorts of things. The other piece of business was closed, so I didn't participate. Review of performance of Greg Foster as the general manager. Yeah. Came back was accolade after accolade after accolade and a substantial pay increase. Surprised him, and he was very appreciative of it. So that's a quick story of what was going on. The meetings are really important.
Thank you very much, and I apologize for skipping over that.
Apology accepted.
And so now we have the ad hoc committee for community forest. And I don't believe we met, did we? No.
I don't think we
did
met.
not. No, okay. So now we'll move on to item F2, which is legislative and regulatory reports. Does anybody have any legislative or regulatory reports?
Oh, geez. I'm going to beg off you guys. I apologize. There's a lot going on and I'm just not feeling well enough to get into it.
Okay,
Next
very
time.
good. Yeah, I've got the CSDA Ledge Committee meets on Friday. Our board packet came out yesterday with two addendums. And so I haven't had a chance to really review the board packet, but I'll give a report at the next meeting about what we covered during the Ledge Committee on Friday.
Greg, could I ask one quick question?
Sure.
And I did get a little positive feedback from one person, but Ms. Simone does an outstanding review of the Russian River, who's all the agencies involved in the water and the reservoirs and everything. And I've been making that available. I think it's very, very good data and really right on the ground type info. I'm happy to provide it to all of you. But if you don't want it, let me know and I'll quit sending it.
No, thank you very much for providing that to us and passing, and staff passes that along to us. I appreciate getting those.
Okay.
Yeah, I totally appreciate getting them. We spent a lot of time talking about this very sort of thing on our way back from where we went the last time we went, just you and I. So thanks.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll move along to staff reports now. We have Finance and Administration Department, Nicole Alvarado.
Hi. The only thing I have to add to my report is we did transfer funds from CalTrust, which is a pooled investment fund, to CalClass, which is a different pooled investment fund. And we are seeing higher returns. So we were averaging about 1 to 2% when we were with CalTrust. And now we're seeing this statement that we just got this month for the period ending June 30th was at 5.3%. So we are seeing, more interest due to that movement. We still have our funds at Humboldt County.
Who's out there?
We still have our funds at Humboldt County. I have put in a request to the auditor controller's office to liquidate those funds. But there's paperwork that has to be done associated with that. And so I'm waiting on that from the auditor controller's office.
Would you?
Could you? Thank you. Yeah, I had a question about, I noticed in your, the last, your other updates that we're talking about that. And I kind of was wondering about county staff's responsiveness and the auditor controller's responsiveness when it comes to getting balances for what we've got in Measure B and what we've got in the reserve accounts there. So how's that working nowadays?
I muted myself. So I do after the end of each quarter, I do request the statements from Humboldt County. They've been much more responsive than historically. I do get the statements within, 60 days of the end of the quarter. I have not received the statements for June 30th. And so because of that, I did have to estimate the property tax distribution for June 30th. And so in order to proceed with, assembling our audited financials, I am going to need those final statements from the county. But last year they did get them to me in time, and I'm optimistic they'll do that again.
Yeah, and I think that the only other thing is the issues with holding up the audit, and then also being able to have access to that money. If we were in a situation to where we needed to get that money fast, I don't know that we would be able to do it. So I think that that's definitely a concern. Maybe something that we can, I know that the auditor controller is an elected official, but something that maybe we can talk to our 5th district supervisor about, and see if there's something that he can say or do that might help facilitate or expedite that, because that is a concern, that if we were in a situation to where we needed to have that liquidity, or that money needed to be liquid, we'd be hard pressed. Because how long did you say it's been since you've made that request to them?
So I make that request typically 2 weeks after the quarter. So it's probably mid-July.
So, okay, so it's not been a month yet.
Yeah, because they just like us, they have to do their month end close. So it does take a little bit of time for them to get everything posted. So I did make the request mid-July, and I did follow up about 2 days ago.
Okay, so that's only been a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Was that all you had?
That was all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. And operations department? So operations director Henry has nothing else there. Parks and Rec director, Parks and Rec report.
I have to retract my previous statement of nothing of note from the Park and Recreation Committee meeting. They voted to change their meeting day to the 3rd Wednesday of the month. And so there were a lot of conflicts on Thursdays. So the next meeting will be on a Wednesday.
Thursday?
Yep.
Well, at least it doesn't interfere with the McMac or any of our meetings. So anyway, was that all you had? Thank you. General Manager Kaspari.
I got a couple things I'd like to discuss. So, every month I do have the cost savings. And since we finished up the year, the district had over $250,000 in cost savings. And I want to point out that that's real money. That's not, just a bookkeeping trick or anything like that. For example, that's $74,705 under the fence construction at Fisher. We got a quote from the contractor. So when the contractor was doing all the work for the Mad River and the perk ponds, he, took down portions of the fence, and he had to replace those as part of the contract. But we also asked him, hey, can you give us a price for replacing the entire fence? And he came back with an $86,000 cost estimate. And we're like, yeah, well, we can do it much cheaper than that. And better. And so staff did go in and replace that fence. And, we did it for $12,000 roughly. So saved $74,000 directly to the district. And it's the same with, the work that's going on in front of Six Rivers too. We had asked a quote from a contractor to fix that pipeline that had a hole in it. And we got about a $50,000 cost estimate from the contractor to do that. And so we decided, oh, okay, we're not going to pay that. We're going to do it with our guys. And they did it for roughly $8,600. James just put together the cost today before this meeting. So we again saved $41,000 of real money. So I wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of that. A couple other quick updates, 4.5 million gallon tank. They are physically going to start breaking ground tomorrow on that. They are mobilizing today and tomorrow, and then start digging Thursday, Friday. So
Are they gonna stockpile spoils on site, or are they gonna haul them off?
they're going to stockpile on site.
That'll keep the neighbors probably happy,
Yeah.
or as happy as they can be with
Yeah.
not having dump trucks driving in and
Yeah.
out of there.
And Central Avenue, quick update on that too. They've done all the runouts to the service connections. They're making the service connections now. So connecting in the actual water meters. Next week is going to be kind of shifted to the sewer lateral or sewer lining, the sewer main lining. So they're going to be kind of focused on that. But then switch back to doing the actual connections and paving. And we really think we'll be done and out of there end of August. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to say that $250,000 in savings, and that doesn't count all the grant funding that we're pulling down too.
Yeah.
That's, so we could add that into the as real savings also. But yeah, that's significant. $250,000 in real money savings is significant. So I just wanted to commend staff about that. And then also $87,000 fence repair. What were they gonna?
We can talk
Was it
about
gonna be
that.
gold plated or?
We can talk about that offline.
Anyway, no, we did already, but anyway, I just had to make that comment. So anyway, we'll I don't have a president's report. Any board members have comments, announcements, reports, or agenda item requests?
Nope.
Nope. Very good. So I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Adjourn.